Good afternoon, folks. I'm Chelsea Anderson, Artistic Manager at Phoenix Theater, and we are coming to you live for this very special event. Before we get started, on behalf of the Phoenix Theater staff, I want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up to support live theater in this extraordinary time. Many of you have participated in our free online lunch, our online education series, Lunch Club, or you've engaged with us on social media to see what's happening at Phoenix. And let me tell you, we have been cooking up some fantastic content you will see very soon as we all stay at home and stay safe. And many of you have generously donated to help us through this. Our entire staff, all of whom are still employed, we're happy to say, thank you for giving at any time, and especially at a time when so many are in need. If you'd like to make a gift, head on over to our website and you can find out all the ways you can give right there. Now, on to the reason you are all here, the Eskenazi Health Second Sunday Talkback. By the way, can we get some love in the comments for Eskenazi Health? Thank you to all the medical staff at Eskenazi and every other medical institution around the country working to keep us safe. You are all amazing. For today's discussion, I am thrilled to welcome some of the artists working on our upcoming production of Lovebird, a beautiful and quirky love story by Indy's own KT Peterson. KT will chat with Lovebird director and Phoenix favorite Jolene Mentink-Moffett, and later on in our show, she'll talk with the two actors in the production, the incredibly talented Scott Greenwell and Bill Simmons. There will be time for a Q&A with you, our lovely audience, near the end of our program, so please send us your questions in the comments. Without further ado, please help me welcome Miss Jolene Moffett. There she is. Hello, Jolene.
Hi, Chelsea. It's really great to be here. And
you are directing Lovebird for us when we get to do the in 2021.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about, in your first impressions of the script as you're working through it, what is intriguing about this for you?
That's a great question, actually. When I read this script, it was given to me to read just with no prerequisite, just to read it to see if I liked it. And Chelsea, as I read it, I could see it in my brain. And I knew immediately if I was going to get the opportunity to direct it, who I wanted on my team artistically, who I wanted to light it, who I wanted to design the set, who I wanted to design the costumes. I knew everybody. I knew all the elements. And so it spoke to me immediately. And I knew then that I should do it. And so I lobbied pretty hard. And I'm a big fan of KT. I've seen her on stage several times, and I've been watching her career as she's in school in Iowa. So there she is. There she is.
Everybody. Technology, it's working. Welcome, Miss KT Peterson. Well, where are you calling in from right now?
I'm in the lovely Iowa City, Iowa. Very nice here. There's sun. Is there sun there?
Yes.
We do. We do have some sunshine today, which is great. So what I'd love to have you all do, I'm going to step out of the way and let you talk about this show and how fantastic it is. So KT, please take it away, and I'll see you all in a moment.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hello, everyone. You can see why we do theater. We don't do live TV. It's not our thing. We're doing so well. Applause for all of us. We're here and we're together, and it's just wonderful. So quickly thanks again, Phoenix, for having me scrape myself out of my sweatpants to do a thing with people that I really care about. So I just kind of logged on and unfortunately didn't hear everything you said, Jolene.
It's okay. Let me just tell you, she asked me how I happened to, or what I was feeling as I was reading the script and why I wanted to direct it. And I just told her that as I was reading it for the first time, without anybody even saying to me, hey, would this be something you'd want to direct? I could see it in my brain. I think the script is really vivid and it really spoke to me. And so I knew exactly who I wanted to be on my design team even. I just saw the way I wanted it to look and how I wanted it to feel and how I wanted it to sound. And it's thrilling because I got every single person I wanted.
Well, I'm excited too, because apparently later on in this little chit chat we're all having together online, I get to see some designs. Is that true?
I think so. I think we've got a couple of pictures for you. Now, these are just preliminary designs. They won't be the final product, of course, but we've had three design meetings already, KT. So we're all chomping at the bit to do this. But as we've had these meetings, we've, talked about what my vision is. And then the other designers have brought in pictures and ideas and words and sounds already to start cooking. And I think that we have a few pictures to show. So that'll be exciting.
Oh, that's great. And I think Chelsea had mentioned that you have, great, the
there we
sketch
go.
up here. Oh,
Right.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's real-time excitement.
The costume designer, Beck, he is right now attending school at the Parsons School in New York City. So when he was home for Christmas break or winter holiday, I had all the design team over to my home, and we talked about what was important to us and how this play makes us feel and kind of what we wanted to pop on the stage. And he came up with some great stuff. So it's exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I can briefly pop in with one of the things I think we wanted to chat about was where it all came from. And I know that Phoenix shared that beautiful article of sad little Nigel gazing at you from the depths of his bird soul.
Yeah.
But I think an exciting thing to talk about with this play right now that all of us are feeling is, of course, being quarantined up together individually. This is a fun play to talk about right now with loneliness and isolation, and how all of you are experiencing it yourselves, and how whatever art you may be working on right now or looking at is lifting you and bringing you through. And for me, revisiting this play, rereading the articles about our friend Nigel, otherwise known as No Friends Nigel, has been really fun for me. And I wanted to say quickly, one of the things that really drew me to this idea to start with was most of the people found this story of Nigel is such a super bummer. I mean, like a devastating, terrifying bummer. That's the reminder to feed my kid that just came off on my Alexa. I don't know if you heard that.
I love it.
Yeah, goodbye pretense. So everyone found this story so sad, and I think that I found the story so deeply moving and beautiful. And so what the play became was a meditation for me on devotion and the meaning of devotion. You can see in the picture there, that's our boy Nige behind two cement decoys. And he fell in love with one, and the island was filled with many, many, many decoys. So what was specific about this one decoy that there was love in his heart about? And there was a visiting bird that came to the island that I guess he chummed around with, but they never really hit it off. So devotion in terms of where I was really riffing on with this play was thinking about, okay, well, what about devotion for most people freaks them out? I think devotion is something we all crave, a type of love that is complete and kind of isolated on you, and you will be cared for and loved, but it simultaneously freaks us out and we shut it away.
Right? It's kind of scary for some. Right?
Yeah.
If not all of us at some point.
True.
It's a lot. It takes work. It's makes you, I think it's interesting how the beginning of the play, we just start with Nigel, and he spends a lot of time just talking. And I've found in this quarantine, I don't know if everybody has a voice in their head, but I do. And so I've been really able to connect and understand how the more alone I am, the more I talk. Maybe not out loud all the time, but there's a dialogue, and it's not a monologue all the time.
Oh, no. And I have so much more to say there. But let's bring on and pull in Kyle Ragsdale's scenic design, which I also is new to me. I want to see. Oh, my God. It's so little on my screen. I'm sorry.
I know. It's, but that is the model that he brought in at our last design meeting. And the concept is to use only found objects, right? What would wash up on the shore of this little island, which kind of speaks to, I think, also how much waste there is in the world and how it's in our oceans and affecting how we see the world.
Yeah, and I think for me, where that catatonia feeling of devotion, like was coming up in other people for me was where I began the exploration with our relationship with the ocean and all of our plastics in the ocean.
Right.
Seeing a picture of that yogurt container from the 70s still alive and well and washing up, and what does that mean? And it's all deeply sewn into this play, and the disposable nature of relationships now, just by the nature of all of our interactions. We can click off and click on and bring up these hip hop designs or someone else on Tinder and move along our way.
Right.
So, yeah. Are we good with those are just so much fun, and I'm so glad I get to see them.
I know. It's exciting.
Should we bring in the amazing Scottus and Billis?
Yes, before we bring them in, let me just say that I'm also very fortunate that before this all happened, I was able to cast the show with two guys that I think are, have so much heart and so much passion, and they have a real chemistry together. And there was some trust in the room between the three of us that I think is so important, because this is new and we're going to create it together. And so I'm really excited about these two guys, and I hope you are too.
Oh, I am ecstatic. Being present for the read through. Anyone who happens to be watching who maybe was there last summer when we did a read through. I had just a few days of a workshop with you in the room, and it was so exciting.
Yeah.
Hello, you two. Welcome. I'm a horrible moderator. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Billy, you look great. Scott, you look great. So I suppose maybe we could do a little bit of roundtable about your experience, kind of even through a bit of the rewriting process, and where your journey of the character is now that the show's been postponed from August until later. How does that affect you, since you took these characters on and knew that it was coming?
Scott, I'll go ahead. I'm actually kind of good with it because it's given me more time to be with the character. I started working on him about I've been working on him since our first reading a couple of summers ago, but I really started through the script about 60 days ago. And I just find the longer I'm with a character, the more he means to me. So I think when we do get to put this thing on its feet, I think I'm going to know him really well. And then I really look forward to the journey in the rehearsal room with Scott and Jolene.
That's great.
I can hear you. Yeah. Scott
I can too.
Cool. I'm gonna write Scott over here. We have a handy dandy text messaging bar. I want you to hear from Scott because he's great. Hold on. Hey, Scott. Talk about your awesome process. Anything Nigel related?
Hi. There you are.
I can't hear anything. I hear you, Jolene. I can't hear everybody else. Talk about my process.
Yes, your process.
Related. I can do that. Hi, everybody. I'm Scott, and I'll be playing Nigel. That's so funny. Sorry. So, obviously, I read the article. I've been through the readings and stuff, some of the development process with this play, and obviously, we have a little time before we do the production, but what I've been focusing on, actually what I've not been focusing on, something that I wanted to put off till way later until maybe we get into rehearsals, is what happens when Norman shows up and when Nigel first meets Norman. I would rather really get familiar with what Nigel's life is like all by himself, and with the things and beings that he creates out of his surroundings. I want to get familiar with that. The only things that I might really focus on when it comes to the relationship between Nigel and Norman, at least over the next several months, would be just the things that are said about Nigel between the two of them, kind of what comes out that might be him sort of trying to explain himself, and that kind of thing. But in terms of I don't want to memorize lines between Norman and Nigel because I want all of that to be new and fresh when it happens. So for Nigel, he has lived on this island by himself for quite a long time. and he has fallen for this little structure, and he's decided to do everything he can to show his love for this structure, how much this structure means to him, this person, for lack of a better word. He names her, and her name is Sandra, and he devotes his energies toward making her happy and toward impressing her, and he finds real purpose in that, actually, and he doesn't see anything wrong with that. I think that there's a level of self-awareness for Nigel, but no shame.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Can you still not hear me, Scott? Probably not. We're gonna.
I don't know where I can't hear that.
I'm gonna say, you are pretty and smart. That's what I wrote to Scott. There you got it right now. Yes. So one of the things that I'm glad that Scott talked about was, so there are these beings that are created in isolation, that are the recipients of devotion, affection. As Jolene was talking about earlier, talking to ourselves, filling up our space with meaning. I think in isolation and quarantine right now, I'm very interested for Bill and for Scott and Jolene and all of us to revisit the weight of isolation on this island after all this has been going on, because the play is going to feel different. The isolation that Nigel has is not just a comedic, way to separate him in order to experience this thing. It's an isolation we all have experienced. So, when people are bringing that in the audience to the play, which all of us theater people are desperately craving our audience to come back to show us the meaning of our work, because as the great Sherry Kramer says, your play is not on the stage, it's living in the audience. So this play will feel very different. And for Bill and Scott, I think the explorations maybe a little heavier in some ways, and the comedy may change, and that's exciting. That's really exciting for a script that's still, a lot of words we say are still in development. Certainly nothing set in stone with this. So that's wicked cool. I mean, what a great place to be. And the gift of the Phoenix to postpone this particular play and not cancel it means the world to me. And I know that a lot of artists out there, people out there watching right now, have already experienced the fallout of just like a no thanks not happening. Yeah. And we're going to see a lot of stories, like if we view, plays with our whole team as this story that's growing and changing, that there's a kind of caved in the middle, some beautiful stuff that maybe needed that bolstering. I'm very, very appreciative of that.
Well, I think this story, can you hear me, KT?
Yes.
I think this story, I'm very appreciative as well. And I think the story will resonate. I think it would have already resonated, right? So that's a given. But I think it's going to even have more conversation that happens between people after they see the show. That's the best kind of theater, right? The stuff that sends you out into the room and everybody disagrees about what was going to happen next or what really happened, what they saw. And this, I think, is going to really sit in a place that we're all getting kind of familiar with, that maybe a lot of us have never, ever had the opportunity to go to. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Scott, can you hear us yet? Darn
I can hear KT.
Oh, I'm so excited. Can I ask you a question directly?
Please.
So to a certain extent, can you just talk to us about your understanding of being this being of Nigel, which is this imbuement of bird and person, and there's such a purity that you're dealing with, which I hope is so universal and so fun for everyone to grab hold of. It's just honest if you want to talk about that at all.
Yeah, I know what you mean. As human beings, certainly personally, I feel this way. We have a lot of baggage, a lot of junk that we carry along with us about who we are and our histories and everything. And Nigel doesn't have that. Nigel, he is probably somewhat self-aware, but there isn't a lot of shame or anything like that about anything that he does. He's filled with love, and he wants to give that love, and sure, to receive it back. Although I'm not sure how aware of that he is. Still dealing with that. So it's interesting. I mean, part of my research has been to watch animals, honestly, and to just see how all they have are those basic internal instincts that make them want to go get food, or go attack something, or go have sex, or something like that. So, and those, for me, as I think about the character, those things are simply magnified. He's not dragged down by any of the other baggage that comes along with those things. It's very simple for him. And so I've been watching a lot of, for inspiration, I've watched like BoJack Horseman and Tuca and Birdie, which is a little Netflix show about birds who are friends. It's a cartoon, but very anthropomorphic. They have lots of human characteristics and stuff. I think the worlds are pretty different, but I use it as inspiration anyway. And honestly, I've been doing more bird watching and more animal watching generally. So I'm
convenient
trying to
in a
get
time of pandemic.
Right.
Yeah, true. I really am trying to get in touch with what I think you mentioned. Like, do we still have that? Do we still have that childlike innocence, that that unencumbered spaz about us all? That's one word.
Yes.
Think about when I think about Nigel. Spaz is the word.
Yes.
At the beginning of the script, you've written, "He knows no chill." And
Right.
so I just think about, especially how when I was a little boy, and I was really just so excited about this, that, or the other, whatever it was, and I had no thought about how silly it was, or
Right.
I got so much out of that myself. So
That's awesome. And bring in the spaz. My heart is
Yeah.
puffing, as it says in the script.
Being a spaz is a beautiful thing. I mean, seeing somebody spaz out, if you're not like with them or whatever, you're kind of. Oh. But I don't know. It's really exciting to feel that way about someone, right? That's awesome.
It's a full channel of experience and feeling. Yeah, totally unedited.
Right. It's freeing, isn't it? Right. I have a 13-year-old boy in my house, and there's something just so free about how he doesn't judge how he's reacting or what his feelings are. He just is. And most of the time it's spaz.
That's lovely. I think we're bringing in starting Q&A here in a couple minutes, and I'm definitely going to need Chelsea to read some of the questions, because my multitasking abilities are
Right.
That's why I'm not a stage manager. But Bill, did you want to throw anything in before we get some questions in here?
Well, first of all, let me just say, we've tried a million ways to figure out the camera issue, so I didn't purposely choose this old black and white format, but it sort of works for Norman, because I think Norman lives just he's larger than life, and also is just really unencumbered by what people think, and he just is who he is. And I agree with Scott. There's just, and Jolene, and I guess you too, KT. There's just so much to play with in this script. And as I read plays, I'm so drawn to these plays that allow artists to create a world rather than a playwright dictating everything about it. And that just really appeals to me about this play, and the designers, and where in the reading Scott and I have already done of this play, public readings. There's just so much that a creative team could do with this play. So I am delighted that we were postponing and not canceling it, because I think this play is very much about love and how it comes to you in various sources. And God knows we are going to need love in every I mean, I believed it when I programmed this a year ago. I believe it more now than ever. It is going to be love that's going to conquer fear, and we're afraid, we're grieving, and we're afraid, and we're going to need a lot of love. So yeah.
Yep. I have a perfect segue from what you just said. I'm so glad you said that. So I don't know if you can see these wee tiny little clothespins. I have a bunch of them. So, and I think that my friend Erica, who directed the workshop production, and I was there, so she's probably going, "Ee, the clothespins." one of the symbols that has resonance in the play is a clothespin, and Nigel kind of doesn't get it until the end. But the play is about connection and our desperate need to hold on to each other that I think we all feel right now with the absence of hugs in our lives. We had no idea the language of hugs and the connection and the endorphins it gives us. I mean, let's just talk about hugs right now and just remember them.
I know. I used to work for a theater company. We would do warm-ups, and they would always culminate with the entire cast and the crew doing these group hugs. I mean, it was just so, beautiful. And I was going to say your clothespins are like for American Girl dolls. They're like little tiny.
They were the gifts I gave to everybody on their little cards. The ones used in the shows were the big old ones, but I just found them, and I said, "Ooh, hi, Chelsea."
Well, hello. I'm here briefly, and those of you who are watching, if you have questions for anyone we have on our team right now, KT or Jolene, Scott, and Bill, please add those in the comments, and I will bring in your questions momentarily. While you're doing that, I want to take a second to let you know about some other things that we have coming up that you can be excited about and maybe join us for. Coming up this Saturday, we kick off our May series of Lunch Club events with the absolutely wonderful Rob Johansson, who will lead us through some at-home exercises you can do to keep yourself moving. So go ahead and sign up for that. It's at noon on May 2nd. Following that, we will have more lunch clubs coming up through the month, including our acting series. We'll get some more improv back in there, some design work, event work, lots of different things you can tune into. Check out all of our Facebook page, all of our social media, our website for all of that information about upcoming classes and upcoming events. Once again, if you are so inclined to donate and are so generous to do so to help us bring you more of what you love, please do visit our website and see all the different ways that you can give. So now let's get to some really great questions from our audience. I will start out with the first one so I can go through and read them and pick one out for everyone. So I'd like to start out with something that Bill has talked about quite a lot with this production and get both KT and Bill's feedback on this. Bill, you say that this play is a lot about what do you do if you find your soulmate in the package you were not expecting? And I'd love for you to sort of expound on that if you would.
Oh, well, I mean, it is that's exactly my premise is I think, I think it feels like we're on a journey. Humans are on a journey where we're like, I mean, I think we've been on a journey since we became human beings that it's about more and more acceptance. And I just feel like that's sort of that's the thing that I've started to embrace in my own life, that it doesn't even have to be about sexual attraction. I mean, I meet somebody and you just sometimes connect and you're surprised maybe you connect because you've met somebody in a walk of life that isn't yours usually, or through the theater. I think that because as artists, the older I get, the more I realize the journey is about love and the need to be loved, and people. I mean, I think we're all wanting to be loved, and I think what happens if I hadn't thought about that person, and I think I've been thinking about some other plays that are about this very thing. Edward Albee's play about the ghost is in love with that ghost. I mean, it's a very dark play, but I'm just beginning to see how love, we put up so many boundaries because society says, oh, that's not cool, or that's not acceptable. And I think as long as it's between consenting adults, and so, yeah, it's part of my journey as a human being on this planet is, who am I to decide and I should be open to whatever comes my way. So that's it.
Yeah, and the conversation of queerness within this play is in the larger term of like capital Q. The idea of queerness is the most beautiful, accepting community that we have, that has shown us the way from the beginning to love and to be and to exist. I was just rereading one of Van Gogh's letters the other day, and he talks about when he would make something, he would just find something so beautiful and so stunning and so stirring that oh my God, I have to show this to people the way that I see it. I have to express this beauty. I have to worship. There's a form of that worship and devotion that we're naturally afraid of, if within that package, that's a great way to say it. And for whatever that means, sexually or otherwise, I'm not supposed to engage creatively with this person. I'm not supposed to date this person or whatever it is. So the purity that we mentioned earlier with Scott of the character and of Nigel is just, the audience wishing that he could just be and see, and Norman is that catalyst.
Fantastic. We've got a great question here from Claire Wiltshire. I want to bring in Katie and Jolene for this one. Claire has asked, can we talk a little bit about the casting breakdown of the play? And did you, Katie, intend for these characters to be male?
That's a great question. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I think that the way that this play has a conversation about queerness is coming from, I think that the embodiment of cis men is important, because I think within the play is also very important conversations about masculinity. What is okay, and what has been so rejected and tamped down over the years for any dude you've ever met in your life, right? That is unallowed, just unallowed to do and experience certain things that involve fucking feelings. Oops, I dropped an F-bomb. I'm sorry.
Please forgive us, all little Phoenix fans.
Sorry. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Sorry.
And Jolene, same question to you in terms of your casting. You saw these artists working together. What was that like for you as you were working through the play?
It was, I think the voice of the play, Katie says in her notes that, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think she says it's okay. You can cast whoever you want to cast, but she encourages, a same-sex situation. And just kind of echoes back to what Scott was saying earlier in that whole spaz thing. I could never envision these birds as women, or female identity. They just, the way they act, the way they communicate with each other, the things that they find offensive and or scary seemed very male to me, not very female. So I was drawn immediately to casting two men. And then we did the workshop together, and Bill and Scott really responded to the notes I gave. And so I felt really confident that we could work as a team together. And I've got a great stage manager who's going to help us. And so, yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you both for that, and Claire for that great question. There are actually two other questions from the lovely Claire. So I want to touch back on something Claire said earlier about Kyle Ragsdale is doing our scenic design for this production.
Yes.
And
I don't know if Claire was with us at the beginning, but yeah, it was really important to me. And when I was negotiating with the Phoenix to direct the play, I said, this is my design team. And if I can't have these folks, then I really don't want to do it.
Oh,
and
Jolene.
Bill kind of scolded me a little bit, but I got what I wanted. Kyle's art speaks to me, and I could just see it in my head as I read the play. And then same thing for Beck and Michael and my sound designer, Jordan Munson. I'm super excited about my design team. Super excited.
That is so wonderful, and actually answers another question of what you're excited about regarding the production. So that's really lovely.
This team is, I said this at the beginning, but in case you missed it, I had everybody over the winter holiday because Beck was home from school. He's in New York right now at the Parsons School. And so it was just an informal meeting, just an opportunity we had a bottle of champagne together, and we just talked about our aesthetics, what we like. And then I talked about what I think the play is about and what was important to me and why I chose each of them to do what I want them to do for the play. And then, when we came into our first design meeting, we were already ahead of the game because of that. And they've all just brought these amazing ideas and colors, and it's exciting. I'm excited.
That's so fantastic. It is, having been in on some of those production meetings and having heard some of the designs, it's so inventive. And I think that's really important, not only for what Phoenix does and what our aesthetic is, that this really feels like an event. It's not just the story I'm passively watching, but by being inventive on the page, KT, and by being inventive in the designs and in all of the work and the artistry that goes into this production, it gets to be something we can all experience very differently together. And I think that's really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you what I am insanely excited about. I mean, everything.
Please.
Obviously, I'm just very excited. But so but I shouldn't say. Maybe it'll ruin. I won't say it. Oh, never mind. I might ruin the surprise.
Okay.
I am excited about some very hidden elements of the play that hopefully will be surprising and uplifting to the audience. That when I see it, I will be. That's not an answer.
But it is wonderful and lovely, just as you are. I'd like to bring back Scott and Bill momentarily here to get a quick question in with them, and then we'll start wrapping up for the day. So if Bob can help me out and get Bill and Scott on the screen. There we go. And let's see, we'll get Scott jumped up here in a second.
Hi.
Fantastic. There he is. So, gentlemen, I'd love to hear from you both about really what it is that in this time that we're currently living in, the play will be after this sort of odd time of isolation, this unexpected, extraordinary time. Can you speak to how the play really finds connection points that may be unexpected, or how we can, in this relationship that these two people are exploring, how do we find what that feels like to feel heard and to feel connected to someone else, even if it's in an unexpected way?
I can't hear Bill, so I don't know if he's talking.
You go ahead, Scott. You go first.
Okay. Well, I've thought a lot about even before Norman shows up in the play, Nigel is making relationships with everything around him, and I think about sort of how we now, through no control of our own, we're all sort of in our homes and having to find ways to engage with excited, like how do these things around me spark joy? How do they bring me joy? And do I really, like, everybody I'm sure has been cleaning out their homes and reminiscing as they find old things, talking or finding new ways for old things, or for discovering, oh, I should have never stopped using this or that. So for me, that then expands to people, loving the one you're with, and simply finding how, we've really been forced to become introspective. So I think that we're forced to embrace the things that other folks are showing us about ourselves, and what we need and what we want, and how we're going to go on with what we have. And that is something that I've kind of found connection with between Nigel and my own experiences here, and other people's too.
Wonderful. And Bill, for you, how does that work in your preparation of the play?
It's everything Scott just said exactly rings true. I just Marie Kondoed my closet last night and ended up with 3 garbage bags of things, a bunch of dress shirts, and a lot of it's going to the Phoenix costume collection. It really is. It's starting to like make me just sort of what is it that I value most in this world? And for me, I'm fortunate that the people I love most are in this house with me, and I have dogs and a cat, and I have my art. And I think that's the hard thing. But I've found outlets for a lot of play readings and developing of new work. But yeah, it's making me really like think hard about how I when we come back to the new normal, whatever that is, it's going to make me think long and hard about where I'm going to put my energies going forward, because I just realize a lot of it is unnecessary and extraneous. So, and this play, I think, speaks to, it's just these 2 birds or these 2 characters alone on this island for whatever the length of the time is in the play. And there's objects and there are things, but ultimately it's about what these 2 create. And I agree with Scott. It's about loving the one you're with, and forgiving them, and embracing the things that they add to your life. And I'm excited. I think that this play is going to have more breathing space between the time of us actually getting to mount it, because I think there's a lot that's going to continue to unfold in our world. And I think when we come to this play in a rehearsal room, we're going to be bringing a lot of stuff with us. And I think it's going to be a lot of good stuff.
Absolutely, I would agree with that completely, and I think this is a very exciting time for some innovation and to see what that inventiveness can do for us in this new way of how we're going to present art. So I want to thank all four of our guests, KT Peterson, Jolene Bintik Moffat, Bill Simmons, and Scott Greenwell for all of their wonderful conversation today. And thank you all for joining us so much for this at-home edition of our Eskenazi Health Second Sunday Talkback. Keep an eye on our social media and our newsletters for updates on what's to come. And in the meantime, thank you to all of the essential workers for everything you're doing to keep indie alive. Thank you to the amazing marketing associate, Bob Lehman, who is our engineer behind the scenes for this talkback today. And thank all of you for sticking with us and hanging out, having a good time, and talking to our wonderful artists. Please stay home, keep yourself safe, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, everyone.